So welcome everybody. My name is Josh Graham. I'm in the field reps with the DC office. I'd like to thank you all for taking this time out to join this meeting tonight. And I'm just going to walk you through tonight's agenda and what we're going to talk about and those staff persons that are going to be available with us during this meeting. For those who did not hear, if you called in and joined in, thanks for calling. Thanks for joining in this meeting tonight. We're going to try to keep this about 30 to 40 minutes so we don't take up most of your time. But I wanted to make a note. We have union staff that are available that you can sort out any work-related issues or any questions that you have while this meeting is taking place. Of course, this is a YouTube live stream video. We want to make it noted that you can reach out to staff that are on this call right now. If you type your questions or any issues that you have within the chat, you can go ahead and do that in the comment section and somebody will respond to you. So we can go ahead and get the agenda up on the screen. So again, welcome everybody. I thank you for calling in tonight. And so I'm going to recap year 2020 and go into the tough year, obviously, that we had with a lot of racial justice issues. And most importantly, that stands out a lot for all of us trying times is the COVID-19 pandemic, which affected a lot of our union members. Our president, 32 BJ Vice President, Jaime Contreras, is going to review the future of the union, our 2030 vision plan, and our new bylaws. And following our vice president, we're going to have the field rep Lewis Davis, who's going to talk about the next steps for the bylaws campaign and 2021 future goals and work ahead for our union.
Rich Gibson.
So again, I wanted
Rich Gibson, can you please move to the next slide? Thank you. Sorry, Josh, go ahead.
He just went over the agenda. Go to the next slide.
Rich, next slide. So again, in talking about 2020, the year brought us a lot of uncommon difficulties. And, I just wanted to highlight that our 32 BJ union members, they stayed strong during last year's pandemic and showed a lot of resiliency. And in solidarity, we had a lot of positivity that came out and a lot of things that we did win last year and that we were able to accomplish despite the pandemic. So I'm going to show a quick video that recaps some of our members fighting back. You can go ahead and play the video. So that video showed 32 BJ victories. And I just want to point out a couple of those things. We should have some of those members on the call tonight. We were able to bargain a new contract for the Smithsonian security officers in Washington, D.C., as well as the IMF employees and the security officers at the World Bank. Right here in D.C., our home, we were able to organize 150 new security officers and land a union contract for them at the Dulles Airport in DC, which is big. So clap it up for the new members and some of that success. And, as you see, we also have an additional 23 contracts that were bargained at federal work sites in DC, and at least 3% of those wages, they got a increase with the 3% increase. And we talk about our organizing. As I mentioned, we're still steadily fighting back. We're still, rallying and fighting for work-related issues and things that are happening, in DC and in the communities and all the way across the world. We even had members that took part in Black Lives Matters protests and actions. Last year, we rallied in front of the Congress. We had a lot of members that are on the call tonight that were out there with us in the cold, rallying and fighting for the fight for hazardous pay and PPE and safe and work conditions. And so we have to continue fighting this year, and we're going to talk to everyone tonight about our plan as we move forward in doing that. And as I introduce our Vice President of 32, BJ Jaime Contreras, he's going to share the most important victory that I believe all of us have in common that we landed in 2020. Jaime?
Thank you, Josh, and good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining this meeting. I'm eager to get to the point in this year where we can do these meetings in person. I miss seeing our members, but this is what we got right now. So thank you again for making the time, just to hear what's going on in your union. So let me just real quick. I know you've been watching the news. Some of you guys were probably glued to the TV yesterday, the evening or during the day for the celebrations. I think it's worth taking a moment to stop and think a little bit about where we are in this moment in history. All that I can say on this victory, the presidential victory of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, is that none of this would have been done if our members here in the DC area and DC, Maryland, and Virginia, but also in Pennsylvania, in Georgia, and Florida and other states would not have come out in the numbers that they came out to make sure that that we had a victory like we did with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So thank you guys for all the hard work. None of this would have been possible without your calls, your sending texts and doing all those good things. Stay on the same slide, Rich, for a second. I just want to say a couple of things here. One, that our members, first of all, if you have access to the comments or the chat section, I just want you to put on there how you feel about this moment that we're in, the inauguration, the victory, the presidential victory. Our union, we made thousands of calls, we registered thousands of people. We knocked on over 100,000 doors in places like Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Florida. And we were in Georgia, where we had two senatorial races that we played a key role in, and we won. So now we have a 50-50 Senate with our own wonderful, excellent vice president being the tiebreaker. So we actually now have a majority in the Senate that can actually get some things done. So all that's a testament to the power of our union, the power of working people around the country. And our guy got 7 million more votes than the other guy, who's now a former president, thank God. But it wasn't easy. I also want to take just a quick second, just acknowledging the fact that we had the events on the 6th at the Capitol, where basically domestic terrorists try to do away with the electoral vote count. That didn't work. Our democracy won. And those people didn't succeed, and they will be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. All of us here, or most of us here, I'm sure, are people of color who, have gone to protest during the Black Lives Matters, and we were tear gassed. That's not the way that these people were treated at the Capitol. But we have a new chief in town, and he's going to make sure that these people pay for what they did. But in the end, we won. We were victorious, and now we need to focus on what is it that we need to do to make sure that we win for working people in this country. Go to the next slide, Rich. So, despite all the craziness, last year we had some amazing victories, as you were just explained to by Josh. We won in all of our contracts that we bargained. We made gains for our members. Then we did amazing work around the presidential race. But we also have a lot of work to do ahead of us. The union continues, the work continues. It doesn't stop because of the pandemic. So we're going to talk a little bit here about some of the changes that we're going to be proposing to our members, that our members approve, in order to continue to do the work that we do. And the reason I want to put this slide in front of you, really, when this union started, when we first got involved with 32BJ, was in 2006 when Local 82 merged with 32BJ. At that time, we had about 80,000 members, but even before then, the 32BJ was mostly a New York union with 50,000 members, 56,000 members, mostly residential workers, mostly cleaners, and we only had 4 union-wide officers. Now our union has 175,000 members. We're in 11 states and Washington, D.C., and the types of workers that we represent is also more diverse. That includes residential cleaners, it includes commercial office cleaners, federal office cleaners, security officers, food service workers, airports, and we also have a lot of members in higher ed, as I'm sure some of you guys on the phone are from. So our union has now more than triple in size from when we got involved, and we need to keep up with the time. So go to the next slide, Rich. So, every 4 years, the officers of the union, the board of the union, which is elected by you, we sit down and we look at what we have accomplished in the last 4 years, and we come up with a plan for the next, for the next years to come. And so this year we have, we're basically building on the foundation that we have built in this union to make sure that we're building strength at the places where our members work and making sure that we hold our employers accountable, but also to make sure that we're doing good things for our communities. So here's our, this is basically our 2030 vision, which is basically the roadmap that we're going to follow in our union for the next decade, basically seeking diversity in the union, unity, building more power to win more things, and obviously justice and racial justice in particular for our members. So, in the next years to come, we're going to be doing a lot of work in the union focused on these 4 basic blocks of work that we're going to be doing around diversity, uniting more members, building more power, and winning more things for our members. We can go to the next slide, Rich. So, I'm not going to go through every one of the proposals. I'm going to go through basically the key big proposals that we're proposing, that we're putting in front of our members in terms of a plan for the next 10 years. We obviously want to strengthen our power and our voice at the work site to make sure that we hold employers accountable and that we continue to winning good contracts for our members that provide protection, healthcare, and all those good things that most of you guys have in our union. We want to make sure that we use power, our political power, to win at the bargaining table. We want to fight for 15 nationwide, raise a $15 minimum wage around the country for all workers. And this is also very important. We want to make sure that we win racial justice for all of our members, but also their communities, not just in 32BJ areas, but also around the country. We want to win immigration reform so that our brothers and sisters can live in peace in this country. But we also, as a union, want to double in size. Right now, we have 175,000 members. We want to be a 350,000 member union. That's all part of this big work plan that we're going to be doing. I do want to take just 5 seconds real quick on this. This is kind of a new thing. We were doing this work before, but we really are going to be honing in on focusing on racial justice, dismantling structural racism in this country, police and criminal justice reform, to make sure that once and for all, our members of color, Black and brown folks, can live in peace in this country that they so much have helped build. Go to the next slide. So to meet our challenges in our union, so we have gone from being a 56,000 member union to 80,000 member union when we merged in 2006 to now 175,000 member union in 32BJ. And throughout all those different iterations, we have built a structure in the union that has helped carry the union forward. And now that we want to double in size to become an over 300,000 member union, we also need to change some of the structures in the union to make sure that we are meeting the moment and to make sure that we're also able to carry forward the plans that we have set in front of us. So in order to do that, the leadership of the union, which includes myself, which, again, Jaime Contreras, your vice president for the DC area, but also Kyle Bragg and all of our leadership of the union is recommending some structural changes, some bylaw changes to our union to make sure that we're able to meet the challenge and carry out the mission that we have set in front of us, which is to become a union that's over 300,000 members strong along the East Coast. We're not only going to be organizing in this area, we're also going to be moving to, we're already in Florida. At some point, we're going to be in Georgia. And at some point, we're also going to be in other states along the East Coast. But to do that, we need to change, we need to make sure that we keep up with the times in terms of our structure. Go to the next slide, Rich. So the bylaws of the union are basically, is the Constitution and bylaws are the rules that make up our Constitution that basically define your roles, my roles, your responsibilities, my responsibilities as a member of the union. They say how we elect our officers in the union, how the elections are run, and the power that the union officers have, et cetera, et cetera. Those are basically the rules that we follow as a union to function forward. So we're recommending some of the changes. And again, in February, all of you are going to get a mail ballot to approve these changes that we're recommending to you. And we ask people, and I know other folks are going to talk later on the agenda, that as soon as you get the ballot, hopefully you'll vote yes to the recommended changes and send it the next day. Don't wait to send this thing. We need to make sure that we're able to get these changes done so we can carry the program of the union. Go to the next slide. So right now, our union, one of the changes that we're recommending is basically, some of you guys may or may not remember in July of 2019, Hector Figueroa, who's our president, passed away. And at that time, we had a president, executive vice president, a secretary treasurer. Kyle Bragg, who was the treasurer of the union, became our president. And then the executive vice president and the treasurer became one position in the union. So we're basically are now going to separate the two. So we're going to have a president in the union. At least this is what we're recommending. The secretary treasurer will be the next person in charge after the president. And we're also recommending that the number of vice presidents, executive vice presidents, be expanded from 1 to 7. And the number of vice presidents, which I'm one of them, goes from 11 to 5. So again, if we want to continue to grow, if we want to continue to carry the work of the union, we also need some structural changes in the organization. And this is some of the changes that we're recommending to you, that we elevate the secretary treasurer to be the next person in line after the president, that we create 7 vice president, executive vice president positions, and that we keep 5 vice presidents in the union. That's one of the changes that we're asking you to approve. Go to the next slide, Rich. So again, this is just to give you a visual of what the current structure is. In purple, you're going to see what the current structure is. In the yellow, on the right side, you're going to see the structure that we're recommending to you as a member of the union, who ultimately are the only ones that can change the constitution and bylaws of the organization. So again, this old structure, new structure. And I promise you, this won't be the last time that you're going to say this. So we're going to make sure that you get some more information on this stuff as well. Next slide. All right. So one of the other changes that we're asking our members to do, and this, again, running an election. So this year, we have an election in the union. Every 3 years, the union goes to an internal election to elect from the president all the way down to the executive board members of the union. And so in order to run for office in the union, you have to be a member in good standing. What that really means is you have to continue, you have to have been paying your dues every month for the last 2 years. Well, we have a pandemic and a lot of people were laid off, and a lot of those people were not paying their dues every month of the last 2 years. So again, this only applies to people who are running for office, but we want to make sure that people who are either in office and want to run again, or people who want to run for office, as long as they have paid up their dues for the last 2 years, they should be able to run without having to have paid the dues every month for the last 2 years. So changing the definition of continuing good standing, that basically people, as long as you pay your dues, as long as you paid up for the last 2 years, you should be able to run. That's one of the changes that we're recommending to our members to the Constitution and bylaws. We can go to the next slide, Rich. Again, the next one is really, we have a pandemic on our hands. By September, which is the election, and actually the signature collection period is going to begin sometime in June. By June, the pandemic is still going to be with us. So we want to make sure that the executive board of the union is able to provide a digital signature collection process for our union officers. So that it doesn't mean that people who want to collect signatures using a petition, a paper petition, they're still going to be able to do that. But for members who don't feel comfortable being asked to sign a petition in person, that they are able to sign it digitally. So that's one of the changes that we're asking members to approve, that they allow the board to create a digital signature collection process for our members during this pandemic. Next slide. Again, every district in the union has representation on the elections committee. The election committee is basically a group of members who are elected by each one of the districts in the union to supervise the election. Well, guess what, folks? Imagine if we try to elect an elections committee person virtually. It just can't happen. So one of the recommendations that we're asking you to approve, again, this is all going to be on the mail ballot in February, is that you allow the election committee that supervised the election in 2018 to be the ones that supervise the election in 2021. Those people were already elected back then. We want to make sure that we're allowed to have those same elected folks supervise the election in 2021. And also to allow the board to appoint somebody. Like for us in the capital area, the person who represented the district in the election committee is no longer in the industry. She's no longer a member of the union. So we're going to have to recommend to the board somebody from this area to be in the election committee, and the board should have the authority to appoint that person. That's what we're asking you to approve. It's common sense stuff, but because it is a change in the bylaws, we want to make sure that our members get a chance to hear about it and what it is, and also a chance to vote for it. Again, these are some of our bylaw changes. If we go to the next slide, thank you, Rich. That we are asking all of our members, you guys work as cleaners in residential buildings, your security officers, your airport workers, you work in schools, you work in higher ed facilities. Some folks even do window cleaning in our union. We're asking you, I'm asking you as your vice president and on behalf of the entire leadership of the union, that when you get the ballot in February, that you vote yes to approve these changes so that we continue to run the union and the union continues to move forward in doing the things that we need to do to make sure our members are able to continue to win at their work site, in their bargaining politically, but also that we continue to grow as a union. So again, thank you for joining this meeting. We have a couple more presentations, but if you have a question about any of this, you can put it in the chat, you can put it in the comment, or you can always call your union rep tomorrow or next week or over the weekend. We'll be able to answer your questions. This won't be the last time you see this, but we did wanted to put it in front of you because you're going to get a mail ballot in February, and we're asking you to support these changes. So thanks again for indulging me. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Louis Davis, one of our leaders in the security division, to explain a little bit more about how the voting is going to happen. Louis.
Thanks, Jaime. So I'm just going to go a little bit over the timeline, because Jaime went through a lot, but I'm going to be specific about the timelines for getting this ballot. Again, to drill back on a macro level of what Jaime has already said, these bylaws recommendations are going to allow us to be a more diverse union, allow us to deliver on our mandate and fulfill our burning platform. So it's important that people support that and pay attention. You get a lot of mail, a lot of text messages, a lot of different emails from the union, but we're saying this is extremely important. So next month, ballots will be sent out. So right now, next month, ballots will be sent out. If and the instructions are going to be detailed on the ballot with the information. By March 5th, ballots are going to be due. By March 5th, I'm going to say it again, you see it on your screen, ballots are going to be due, and then we'll have union elections for union officers and the leadership of the union in September. Next slide. So again, you know, this is just a visualization, but just as a reminder, ballots will be out next month. But if you don't receive your ballot in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I want you to call 202-387-3211. Again, if you don't receive your ballot in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to drop this in the chat right now. We want you to call 202-387-3211. You get a lot of mail from the union. You get a lot of mail from the union, but it's really important that you call 202-387-3211 if you don't receive your ballot to vote on these important bylaw changes that Jaime walked us through. You need to participate in the democracy that is this union. Next slide. All right, so before I start and go over the victories that we have had, because there are a lot of things we've done around this pandemic from day one, right? When DC shut down, we sprung into action. But before I get into that, you know, we've had over 150 32 BJ members who have died, 17, and unfortunately, it will continue to go up here in the Capital Area District. So if you know a security officer, if you know a building cleaner, if you know someone in your family, if you know a university cleaner or worker who has died from the pandemic, I want you to drop a RIP right now in the chat. Drop a RIP in the chat. Normally we would do a moment of silence, but I can't hear you guys, so that we can have, you know, corporate recognition of the loss and the severity. Before I go on and we root this, drop a RIP right in the chat. I'm watching the chat right now. Drop a RIP to let those officers know, let those janitors know, let those food service workers know. Even if it wasn't a 32 BJ member, it's been over 400,000 Americans who have passed away. Drop a RIP to let them know that they rest in power, that we're going to continue to bring justice to essential workers. I only see one person who's left a RIP. Come on, fill it. I want to see this chat screen fill up, because I know there are people that we have lost that have been near and dear. There have been people who have helped bargain contracts for their co-workers, people that were always active in the union, people who led political fights. Those workers are not forgotten. You don't get the giant celebration on CNN and the recognition. These are real people. We feel your impact. Put a RIP right now. I'm going to give a couple more seconds. My screen's filling up with RIPs, and that matters to us. This is real. We are still in the middle of a pandemic, but the fight to get justice for essential workers is not over. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So going on, there are a couple of things that we have done, many things actually, that we've done to maintain that we have protections on the jobs related to COVID-19, and we're not done. We have to continue doing those things. So we've had recall protections. When we say recall protections, in a lot of contracts, if you're not active in your workplace for a certain number of days, you lose your seniority or your status with the company. We are still continuing the fight, and we have won many recall protections, and we will continue to fight those. We extended healthcare benefits for 180 days for laid off members. 180 days, we dug deep into the union benefits fund to provide healthcare so that members weren't cut off. in the CARES Act, and I want to say this, we will continue to fight for hazard pay. We will continue to raise the issue of essential workers. But to be clear, our biggest victory for essential workers, we're bringing janitors and security officers into the forefront. I've lost track of how many articles, how many news stories that we have done, raising the story. When the first security officer in DC government died, we fought to get his story up in front of DC, because when people talk about essential workers, they were not talking about janitors, and they definitely were not talking about security officers. So we will continue to raise the awareness that security officers, that janitors, that property service workers are essential workers, and we will put forward new proposals, because the HEROES Act may be dead. And I want to say that again, the HEROES Act may be dead, but our fight to get more pay and more justice and to raise the issue of essential workers is not over. And then lastly, as we move into this next phase of the pandemic, a vaccine has dropped, and we know there have been a lot of questions around the vaccine, and we are not dismissive as a union full of Black and brown people of the health disparities and histories with our healthcare system. So we are working hard with the health funds to develop education and information, reliable information about this vaccine. And we are encouraging everyone, DC public school security officers, Kaiser Permanente janitors, a lot of folks are already available and eligible to get the vaccine, and we are encouraging people to do so, but more information will be coming out very soon. Next slide. All right, so, you log on, and we know you want to talk just about your workplace, and we get that, but 2021 will be an amazing year. We have a new president in the White House, and I want to be clear, Joe Biden is not the solution, it's an opportunity, right? And we're going to take advantage of this opportunity. If you want to take advantage and keep fighting for the opportunity to raise the issue of essential workers, put this is the opportunity. Right now in the chat, put this is the opportunity, not a solution. We never said getting one person elected was going to be a solution to the issues of all working people. We never said that. We said that will create an opportunity. The opportunity is now. It is on us as union staff. It is on you as union members. So we're going to have some COVID response and vaccine education coming out very soon. We're going to be doing more leadership workshops. This is the opportunity. Put it in the chat. I'm only seeing 2 people right now. It's very important that we have these contract educations. You got to know the contract in order to enforce it. So every month we're doing contract education for security officers. We're going to continue our racial justice and immigrant justice work, rolling it out. Again, it is just not the fact that we are workers. We are brown and Black workers, and we will continue to raise those issues. And we are going to work with employers on recalls to make sure if you've been laid off, your job will be protected. We will continue to fight for that. And I will say we will have company-specific meetings coming soon. We know you want to talk about your company, your work location. We are clear about that. We have a larger mission as a union, and that's why we want you to tune in to feel part of something bigger than just your building. But we have not forgot about your building. We will have company-specific meetings coming next. And don't forget to look out for your mail ballot and vote yes for these bylaw changes. This is important. This is an opportunity. This is an exciting moment. I hope you guys are excited to take advantage of the opportunity that we have as working people to get some more justice now that we no longer have a bigot sitting in the White House. So I thank you. I thank all the members that logged on. I thank our leadership of our union, always behind the scenes, Maria Naranjo, Jaime Contreras, Josh, our union reps that are monitoring the chat, the fearless leader of the security division, Rich Gibson. I thank all the leadership and the members who continue to log on and join us. Thank you.